Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. Good morning, everybody. Ooh, I just want to say thank you for giving me last Saturday off. You know, I didn't realize how tired I was, and I just needed a minute. So I'm back. I'm refreshed, and I thank you for joining me this morning. I see you over there in YouTube land. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Robert, and I see you over there, family, chiming in. Today is what, June 5th? OMG. OMG. Can y'all believe we are like halfway through the year? Halfway through the year. If you're watching right here on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, hit the notification button, and share. You know, we bring it over here. This morning, I have some very special guests with me, some very special guests. You know, I find myself reading all kinds of stuff. I'm all over the place, but I found this organization coming to the table. And I just thought it was like so interesting. I'm like, who are these people? So I invited them, of course, you know me. I invited them to the broadcast. We have Mr. Chuck in the house. Good morning, Chuck.
Almost there. I think I'm almost there.
Uh-oh, okay. You helping someone in the background. I'll bring you back. I think you're helping. I think we have Miss Kelly. Kelly, you with us?
I am.
Good morning. Chuck, you want a minute? I know you're helping someone to come on.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we'll bring him back. Good morning, Kelly.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me this morning. I appreciate you coming to the table.
Yes.
Excited. I found you guys in an article, and I knew it was race related. I knew it was about hard conversations. I could tell that it gets really deep, but I wanted to bring you on and give you guys an opportunity to talk about the organization. Let's talk about some of the issues. Let's just go there this morning.
Let's go.
Coming to the table. Tell us all about it. Where did this organization start? You're the Atlanta chapter.
Correct. Yes. So it is a national organization. It was started originally from people who are called linked descendants. So it's people who are the European descendants of enslavers and also the African-American descendants of enslavers who are related through blood, but not necessarily, or most of the times not through shared life experiences.
Mm-hmm. I see you, Kitty.
So it originally started with people coming together to explore how they are linked and their genealogy, and come together as family and learn from each other and their experiences, and to really acknowledge the past, to go, like you said, to go there, to go deep and explore that. And now it is a national organization. You do not need to be a linked descendant, but just somebody who is committed to coming to the table. And as we say, the hardest part of this work is not coming to the table, but it's staying at the table for those difficult, or a lot of times we like to call them brave conversations.
I knew this was going to be good this morning. Good morning, Miss Kathy. I see you. You made it. Welcome.
Hi. Sorry about the delay. I was trying.
Oh,
Thank you.
No worries. You know, technology sometimes is not always our friend.
It's not always our friends, and I'm preparing for an 11-year-old pool party. So, I mean, so that's taking some energy right now. But anyway, I'm here now, and I'm happy to be here, and happy to see Chuck and Kelly Lynn as well. And thanks for inviting us. This is great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And my phone wants to ring in the middle of the broadcast. Life happens, right?
All the time.
It does. But yeah, I found this organization very intriguing. And I was like, I don't know who these people are, but I want to know more. And I sent an email, and I think it was Chuck that you replied back, and we were coordinating back and forth with this opportunity to talk about coming to the table. And this is so interesting to me because I, you know, as a descendant of chattel slavery in this country, and I'll let you guys tell your stories and we'll go there. But I know that there is a direct correlation. Like we're not that far generationally removed from each other. My father, this is like a joke for him. He would say to me, he was like, you know, y'all are white people on my mama's side. He said, you know, y'all are white people. And I always thought that was like kind of funny. I'm like, I don't know we're white people, but okay. Because my mother, my her paternal side is very, very, very light. It got darker and darker, but they were very, very light. But I'm gonna stop and let Miss Kathy, I'm gonna let you jump in and just, how did you get involved with coming to the table?
Oh, it can make me cry if I tell you how, but I'll tell you anyway. Kelly Lynn and my best friend in the whole world worked together at the children's school, and we lost her about 2 years ago. And I spoke at her homegoing, at my friend's homegoing, and I noticed that I was working on her obituary and doing a lot of things, talking to her son, and I saw CTTT. And so I think I might have sent you, Chuck, an email or posted on the web pages, the Facebook page, and asked about your organization and got to meet you guys. And you guys asked me, you know, if I wanted to fulfill the remainder of her term. And of course, anything that she was passionate about, I was passionate about. So I said yes. And we had a big tearful moment, my first night into the meeting. And it's been amazing ever since. I have no regrets. I think that this group, it can be tough some nights, but I think it's the most meaningful thing that I've been a part of that actually deals with racism and the talk, where we're not trying to hush it up, but we're trying to really talk and we're trying to heal. And I find it very satisfying. And I have a couple of friends who've joined since, and we talk about it even after we have our meetings. We call each other up and we talk about it some more. So yeah, it's a very good place to be right now, particularly right now. So thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Kelly Lynn. Appreciate you.
What are these talks like? And then I do want to hear from Chuck. And I don't do interview style. I love conversation. So let it flow how y'all flow. Like, please don't lean on me to lead. We're in this together.
I think Chuck probably can better explain, because there's a lot going on in this meeting. There's a lot of, Chuck's a drummer. He does African drumming. So we can talk about how we open up, Chuck, and how we meditate and how we reflect on our ancestors before we go into the hard discussion. So I think Chuck can better explain that than I can.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. I think one of the things that drew me to the organization was its emphasis on building relationships and building trust. In order to, those things have to come first before we can do any healing. And so Kelly and I just happened to come on the organization about 5 years ago now. And they were having their national conference in Virginia. And we were on our way on a long summer vacation driving trip up to Maine and eventually Newfoundland to visit friends there. And it was right on our way. So we said, wow, that looks like a powerful community. Let's check that out. You know, let's register for the conference and go, you know, meet some people and learn some new things. And that's what we were most impressed with in the community. Like Kathy's saying, there's no avoidance of difficult conversations. I mean, there's a commitment to stay in the heat, you know, stay in the fire, stay in the cauldron of difficult conversations. And the leaders and the facilitators are trained to, you know, to support that, to hold space for uncomfortable moments and even longer than moments, you know, ongoing, really difficult situations. And we experienced that firsthand in that first conference we went to. So we kept talking about it. And even our friends that we visited, we were sharing with them about this powerful community we'd met And on the way home, we were talking about it. We said hours and hours driving. And we came back and we felt like we just couldn't leave it in Virginia, you know, where we had experienced it. We wanted to see if we could keep this going and even establish, you know, the beginnings of a community dedicated to these conversations and building relationships in Atlanta. So Kelly happened to work with Wilma, who Kathy mentioned, and another African-American woman named Natalie at the children's school. And we asked them if they'd be interested in starting a local affiliate group for Coming to the Table in Atlanta, and they said yes. So I didn't know either of them well, if at all, at that time. So we had numerous meetings over probably a month or two to talk about, you know, to get to know each other, to build kind of like the core of what our community might be, and you know, make all the decisions that we needed to make about where to meet, how often to meet, what's the format, what are we going to talk about, how do we invite people to join. And we started, you know, December of 2016. So it's been really meaningful for me, enriching. I've learned a lot, but the main thing is all the relationships that I've made that I wouldn't have had without joining this community and doing this work.
And the core of this, Kelly, I think you said this early, link descendants. Talk about that, because that is the root of this.
I will say that is the root, because it's all about relationships. But at this point, there is a subcommittee of people who are linked descendants, but it is also opened up to anyone who's wanting to step in and do and work with racial justice and have conversations, you know, both deep and joy. I don't want it to sound like the only thing we do is talk about all the hard stuff. Relationships have hard stuff and relationships have joy. So when we get together, there's a whole spectrum of laughter, tears, anger. So it is everything. It was based on that linked descendant relationship, and now it's open to everyone.
What was that like for you, Kathy? Like, did you come in, you know, wanting are you a descendant? Let me go back. Are you a descendant of slavery in America, here in this country, Kathy?
Absolutely. I am a descendant of slavery. I actually, Chuck, I haven't told you this, but I got my ancestry gift for my son for my birthday, and I sent it off this past week. And the things I didn't want to know, I'm going to find out now. So, and I'll tell you why I say that. My roots are in Louisiana. My father moved there when he was 12 years old from Mississippi. My mother born and raised right there outside of New Orleans. And a place called White Settlement is where my grandmother's from. And it was like Choctaw, we were told, Choctaw Indians, and they had a lot of property taken from them. My father, on the other hand, says they weren't Indians. They weren't Native Americans. He said Indians, but Native Americans. He said they were white people and they intermarried, and so they claimed to be Native American. I'm hoping that I have that. We were told we were Choctaw Indian and African descent. So I'm hoping that still sticks when the results of the ancestry comes back. But on my grandmother's side, of course, my father's mother's biracial, so we definitely know more about that family, and they were from Ireland. I know their names. I know who they are. So yeah, they are, and I know that they were, not only were they slaveholders, I linked back and I found my my grandmother's grandfather, found a photo of he and his wife. She looks just like a grandmother. And unfortunately for me, I found out also that he was captured in the Civil War as a Confederate soldier. So my relatives told me to stop looking. I mean, they didn't want to hear anymore about that side of the family. But anyway, so we have a diverse, I mean, being an African American in this country, everything was taken from us, our identity. And so there is a hunger to know who you are. But then you go through an emotional state when you realize that there were relatives in people owned you. I mean, they actually owned human beings. That's hard to fathom. but that's what this country was founded on, and it's just a painful thing to talk about sometimes. But we have to talk about it, unlike the Georgia School Board, who just said, we're not going to talk about certain things on race. This past week, they passed a resolution. One of the most heartening things because the whole thing is, how do you correct if you don't know what to correct, if you're hiding the error of your ways? And so I don't know how we're going to fight that, Chuck, but that's probably going to be something we're going to be discussing at our next meeting for sure. It's heartbreaking that you want to ignore the pain that people are going through. You look at Tulsa and you think about generational wealth and how we were denied all of that. And you can't not fix it unless you talk about it and find out how it happened. So yeah, it's a lot of pain involved with this, but I'm with a group of great people, and we get through it every week, every month, and it's been a good experience for me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to my second term. I decided to stay on as a facilitator after my term was up. So, Chuck, you may never get rid of me. Kellyanne, you may never get rid of me. So, but but this is good stuff. This is really this is where we need to be. We need to have those painful conversations. And I'll give you an example, Chuck, if you don't mind me sharing this. Chuck and I were texting during a meeting once, and somebody said something, and it was like, oh my God, they just don't know. And so we went back and forth texting. Well, this is what we're here for. We have to tell them that's not what you say. That's not how you refer to an African American. Well, if they don't know, they don't know. And so we decided we'd tell them. And, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. But we wouldn't be true to ourselves if we had let that go and not had addressed it. I think, Chuck, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. And it might have been
the first time we had an online meeting.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure that person was not trying to be offensive. I know that person wasn't. But what was said was an offensive term to us. So that we don't know each other. And I think one thing we learn about this is that African Americans, since we've been in this country, we've always had to be in the lives of white people. But white people never had to come into our lives. We had to work in their homes. We had to nurse their children. We had to work as sharecroppers. I mean, we went from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. So we were always in their lives, but they were never in our community. So the mistake was like, well, we didn't know, But that's what this group is about. It's about teaching, learning, and healing. So.
And I think one of the beauties of having a national organization is so much work has gone into helping facilitators hold the space. So there's the 4 pillars of coming to the table are uncovering history, building relationships, healing, and taking action. So we're all constantly looking as facilitators at how can we create meetings and create experiences to help people do those 4 things. Mm-hmm. There's also touchstones. And one of them, like that was brought up in this conversation, is using ouch and oops. So what you just said caused, I need to say like, ouch, and then name it. What did, name what hurt, and then my response needs to be like, oops, not defense, not, anything that would cause further harm, but just like, oops, I need to learn from this. Right. So there's 12 touchstones, but different tenets that can really help both the facilitators and the people who come to build relationship and move on when harm is done, because it will be.
When something happens and it's an ouch, what if it's more than an ouch? What if it's like is there a touchstone like that goes a little deeper? Like, wait, that was like, that hurt. That wasn't just like ouch.
I think the word ouch is meant to like can be broader. I think it's used as like the word ouch, but it means it can be like, holy moly. I need to, like, in Zoom world, I need to turn my camera off for a while. Or in physical world, I'm gonna step out. I need to take care of myself right now. So but it's how does the community handle those? And it's through acknowledging, because if you don't acknowledge the pain, you can't work towards healing of it.
And we take different subject matters out of every meeting. We're not all the time, but we've done things on lynching, and it can be very, very hard to sit in the room and see the photos and hear the stories and watch people picnicking at a lynching. I mean, but we've had these meetings and talked about this, and I know that Chuck has said before. I did a report on lynching once, and Chuck said, we're going to do this, and you may have to leave the room. You can go ahead and leave the room, come back, but this is going to be a difficult conversation tonight. So we prepare people when there are conversations like that, for sure, and give them the opportunity to stay or go. So, go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
Another thing that we do to prepare the space, whether we're in person in a physical room together or if we're online, is we invoke the presence of any ancestors each person wants to call in that are going to help them, feel more grounded, feel more supported, feel the strength and the wisdom of the ancestors. And we know there's only so much that we can do together in this particular time, we have together in this dimension, to do this work. But with the wisdom of the ancestors, if we invite them and ask for them to come and be present, we'll be able to do more. So we always recognize that we can accomplish more if we bring in people who have lived through very difficult things and still thrived, survived, succeeded, passed on life to another generation. So that's another practice we have at the beginning of all of our gatherings. And I think that's a really important and really helpful thing to do.
One of my favorite things to do. Oh, go ahead, Kelly. I'm sorry.
You go.
One of my favorite, well, you guys know my favorite part of this, when it's all over, when we've cried and we've laughed and had different opinions about different things. At the end of the day, what we do is we end the meeting with one word that one word expression of how you feel coming out of this discussion. And I think that is very helpful. And I love that part of it. As a matter of fact, I always want to take that part and say, okay, I'll do that part because that's my favorite part. And it's amazing because people can give you one word about what that evening did for them. It could be hopeful. It could be faithful. There are just all these different words. And it's like they actually reflect on how this meeting tonight changed something inside of them. And I think bringing in the ancestors has a big part to do with how they come out of that conversation.
Yeah. The audience is so excited. I'm gonna let you talk, Kelly. The audience is so excited. I think that they're already starting to ask, can they ask questions? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Put your questions in the chat. I'm sure they will be more than happy to answer them. So definitely let's start with some questions. Go ahead, Kelly.
So after, if it's a presentation on knowledge, if we have a speaker, we run the meeting is run in circle, where everyone has a chance to talk. All voices are equal. So somebody might choose to pass. Somebody might keep the mic for quite a while. So that's also an acknowledgement to more of our ancestry that is based in trying to create equity, and also especially in a white-dominated society where so many people who are in the dominant culture just can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. There's another tenet about like just trying to pull back, and other people who are less inclined to use their voice, it gives them an opportunity without having to like try really hard to use their voice. No, it is your turn. It is your turn for us to listen and just be quiet. So there's no crosstalk once the circle gets started. It is just you until you have said your piece.
I like that approach. What a way to make sure everybody's heard and felt, and they have a place in the conversation. I really like that approach. I knew it was something special about this group. I just didn't know what it was. And like I said, I saw the article and I'm like, I don't know who these people are, but I want to learn more about what you're doing. And you've been around since 2016 here in Atlanta?
Yes.
And pre-COVID, you were.
Yeah, the national organization started in 2006, I believe, in Virginia. But there's affiliate groups all over the United States. There are 49 in 18 or 19 states, and one just started in the Virgin Islands. So yeah, there's local groups growing everywhere.
Tamara, I think because of the way we are organized, a platform like this, we really can't tell you. It could be very much more interesting, but when we're in those conversations, we're private. We don't take that information outside of that circle and share it. That's so that's why it's important. If anyone's listening tonight, come join us. I think that's the way you see how this really works, because what we say in the circle basically stays in that circle among those people who are talking. So it's really hard to give you examples of some of those conversations without being true to, our format and what we believe works for us. I think that's, Chuck, don't you think that's pretty much, it's really.
I totally respect that. I totally respect that, the conversations are internal. And I totally get it. Ivan says, does coming to the table have a mission statement? Are there any Generation Xers and millennials in your group?
I don't have the mission statement memorized, but I'll do my best to kind of summarize it. It's really about building a just and truthful society in the United States that's committed to healing the legacies of slavery and racism as they still exist in our society. And Kelly, I don't know if you can go to the website and copy it maybe into the comments.
I already have. I'm just not figuring out how to put something into the comment section.
Okay. And
So I can.
second part, yeah. Second part of the question, we do trend to be in our probably 30s and 40s and up. We would love to have more younger members, but that seems to be the ages of people that do participate in the Atlanta community.
And one of our executive directors at the national levels, she's in her 20s. Mm-hmm. We have two national directors or executive directors at the national level, and Jody's in her 20s.
Robert says, thanks. The alliance building is wonderful to see, but is there an agenda to turn this organization toward political goals, because descendants of slavery are in need of transformative policies?
Mm-hmm.
So reparations is a huge part of fighting for reparations is a huge part of what Coming to the Table does. If you go to the website, and again, I'm trying to figure out how to put the website in here. But if you go to the website, there's been a whole reparations working group that spent 2 years coming up with a document that includes both financial and non-financial ways for people of European descent to give and give back and work towards equity and justice. Also, we have our national gathering coming up on June 24th, and a good chunk of what we're doing when we gather together is to look at reparations and work through ways that we can make that happen.
That is so exciting. Like, just to hear you say that is a focus for your organization is tremendous. I don't know if you know a whole lot about my background, but I ran for the United States Senate here in Georgia in 2020 with the reparations platform. I spoke very boldly about the need for redress and repair that needs to happen for those of us who are descendants of chattel slavery in this country. I came in 6th place, and you guys are here in Georgia, so the top 5 were either had millions and or influence. We ran a grassroots campaign. And we had very little money, but we came in 6th place with a bold agenda with reparations. So I know Georgia specifically is ripe. As a candidate for the United States Senate in 2020, I traveled around Georgia talking about reparations, and there's a lot of pockets of Georgia. First of all, we know that the internet is not the greatest in certain parts of Georgia. We know your phone service is a little choppy in certain parts of Georgia, and just the information that a lot of our rural areas get is recycled. It only comes through the television or the local radio station. They're not getting the bigger national news. They're not keeping up with the bigger initiatives. So when I went down and I was talking about reparations on the campaign trail in 2020, it was like exciting news. Like here in Georgia, I know we are on the heels of Juneteenth is coming up, and people didn't know they were free. And I say even here in Georgia, we don't know that we're free. And there's still a lot of education that needs to happen, specifically in our rural areas. Like I say, they just don't have access to the information. And reparations is a new conversation, but my candidacy in 2020 proved that we're right. Georgia is right, and the nation is right. And I believe that it's time to push this narrative. We have HR 40 in the House, we have S40 in the Senate, and we have to continue to push this agenda, because if America is really and truly going to heal, reparations will be the medicine to do it.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, there was a congressional hearing on reparations, and I believe Cory Booker spoke, Danny Glover spoke, and I think as the third person was a longtime member of Coming to the Table, Katrina Brown. And she mentioned Coming to the Table in our organization, but she spoke about also her family history as one of the largest slaveholding families in the United States. And so she, among many other speakers, spoke on the case for reparations. So it's something we're involved in. I'd also just mention, personally, I'm quite new to this work of social justice and racial healing as far as being actively engaged. And I have found that it is very challenging for me to even begin to learn, to navigate a way in to begin to affect policy. But I also know that's the primary way that actual change is going to come about. And Kathy and I are working on a potential ordinance for the city of Atlanta, making it criminal to do what's called unlawful summoning, which is calling the police on people of color who are doing completely legal things. We've seen proliferation of this, for many years. So there are municipalities across the United States that are writing legislation, getting it passed. I think the entire state of Oregon passed it at a state level. So that's something that Kathy and I have been engaged in, working on, coming up with the right language, and beginning to move it into the awareness of Atlanta City Council so they can begin to, consider making this an Atlanta ordinance.
Unmute your mics. We were getting a little back feed. Let me unmute you, or you can unmute it. There you go, Kathy.
Am I muted or can you hear me?
You're unmuted now. You're good. We were getting a little back feed, so I muted everybody.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Oh, I was just letting Chuck know that Hazel has it in her hands now as of this week. We're right now calling it a Karen law. I mean, that's what some states are calling it, and some municipalities are calling it. We haven't decided what we're going to call it, but we have drafted it, and so we're going through it now to see what the next step will be. So policy is a big part of what we do. I guess that answers the question.
That's awesome. I'm putting the link that you just sent over, Kelly. I just put it in the chat, so it's there. Yeah. That's how we move the needle, and it will take policy changes for things to actually really, really and truly change, whether it be local policy here in the Atlanta area, whether it be state policy. We have HB 541. Have you heard about HB 541?
Remind me what the number.
House Bill 541 is a bill to address the impact of chattel slavery and Jim Crow on those of us who are descendants of slavery in Georgia. It was introduced by Representative Roger Bruce in this session. This bill is very strategically written. I'm gonna mute everybody just because I'm getting a little back feed, and I'm sure the audience can hear let me mute you guys, and then unmute yourselves when you start talking. So again, Representative Roger Bruce introduced this, very strategic, because it not only pushes the Democrats to address, and it doesn't specifically say reparations. Reparations is a federal initiative. For it to be equitable, it has to be initiated via the federal government. We have cities like Evanston, Illinois. We have California with an initiative. Oregon, you mentioned, they have a bigger initiative. New Jersey, Asheville. There's some other another municipality that has an initiative, but reparations is federal. And what is initiated here doesn't specifically say reparations, but it does create a commission that will come back with some policy recommendations to address the systemic injustices from slavery through Jim Crow on those of us who are descendants here in Georgia. Phenomenal, monumental legislation in Georgia. So I know that, you know, an organization like yours in a season like this is so important, because I believe that foundational white Americans, and I say this respectfully with the, you know, with the Trump supporters, the people that seem so radical, I think they have something that, honestly, I believe there's something that they're trying to say. There's something that's not being translated well via the media. And I believe, honestly, that those of us who are descendants of chattel slavery, and this is just me, my thinking, I believe that we have more in common with those who are, you know, deeply rooted in their own history in this country. We have more in common. The blood of their ancestors is flowing through my veins. So we love America like they love America. And there's some parallels, there's some correlations, there's some ways for us to come to the table. That's why I love what you guys are doing. And I appreciate it so much, because I think there are ways for us to come to the table and have these hard conversations. I saw a video, and this has been some years ago, where there was this Black Lives Matter group and this Trump supporting, Confederate flag waving group, and they actually came together and they didn't clash. They started having this dialogue, and at the end, I saw a Black man and a white man actually embrace in a picture. That didn't go far in the media. They didn't tell that story long at all, but I remember seeing it. And I know there's opportunities for us to come to the table and have these hard conversations about race. That's why I so appreciate what you guys are doing. You can unmute, Kelly, unmute.
I think one of the things that is so beautiful about, I hear you when you say it, really, in order to create equity and justice, what needs to happen at a national level and through all the local and state level work that's being done, it helps people, it helps educate people on the importance of it. And it also, like the book, The Sum of Us, talks so beautifully about the systemic racism that has people of European descent feel that people, African Americans are undeserving, which is not true. But part of the big hump to overcome in reparations is to overcome that the system that has set people up to believe the tropes, and know that, you know, if people of European descent are okay giving reparations to corporations and people of Jewish descent and basically everyone else, it's helping people be educated to understand what their biases are against giving reparations to African Americans.
And what do you think some of those biases are? Like, you know, like you said, that they think we're undeserving, but this is a debt owed. And that's where I push back. You know, this is a debt owed, where generations of people for hundreds of years worked for absolutely free. And then when we were freed, quote unquote, you know, what little wealth we were, well, it wasn't little, it was a lot. You know, what we were able to quote pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, boots and straps we didn't have. We were able to do that. That was destroyed along the way. So why, you know, what pushback are you, what do you think the biases are?
It's the lie that has been told since pre-slavery that people of African descent are less than. And it's been told in countless different ways in order to justify slavery, in order to justify Jim Crow, in order to maintain power of European Americans. So it's that to me, that's the biggest lie. And, you know, it's worked, our system works to perpetuate that lie. So we need to, part of the healing of coming to reparations is that uncovering that history and acknowledging that so that we can work towards healing and be able to repair.
There's a lot of unspoken signaling among people of white racial identity. And, you know, we'd like to say, you know, we're all equal. We're all human beings. You know, we're all citizens deserving of all the same rights and resources. And yet, over and over, when it comes down to actually distributing resources or funds or access, people who are identified with being in the white group will want to keep those resources and the best of those resources for themselves. I think a lot about immigrant consciousness. My father's parents were born in southern Italy, came to the United States, you know, struggled, very poor, worked very hard. My dad got a good education. He was born here in the United States, worked very hard. There is a way, I think, in a particular aspect of immigrant consciousness, we will think to ourselves, you know, we've made it. We did what we were supposed to do. We worked hard. We kept our nose clean, as the saying goes. And if we were able to do that, anyone should be able to do that. There's something really important missing from that way of looking at it, which is all the systems were designed, constructed, put in place, and maintained to support people who look like me, people of white racial identity, where those same systems were designed and put in place and maintained to deny those things to African Americans. And it still happens. You know, you may not be able to find it in official written government policy like we can see if we really look at redlining. That's official government policy. But like, you know, current story from today, just coming out in the last couple of months, and I know it's been going on probably forever, but Black people go to sell their home and they get an appraisal and it comes in $100,000 lower than when they do the same exact thing but have a white family member or a white friend come to the house. They take all the evidence of any of their culture, their family pictures, anything off the walls, and that appraisal goes up $100,000. So that's part of that unspoken thing that's not in written policy anywhere, but that's in the personal stories, that's in the personal lived experiences that people have. So that's not old, you know, that's today, that's right now. And so it's infuriating to hear, you know, the governor and the Board of Education, like Kathy references earlier, you know, wanting to protect the feelings of students of white racial identity so they don't have to feel any guilt about the group that they belong to, but it ignores the actual real impact and lived experiences and suffering that people of color have through racism right now. So that's the way I'm looking at, you know, that's this week, you know, that's official Georgia Board of Education, you know, making this resolution, which is not a law, but, you know, it could be the legislation making it more official policy.
Chuck, can I add to what you just said?
Yeah, please.
We talk about this as if it was 400 years ago. You know, this happened 400 years, get over it. But you create these institutions where white America has created these institutions. I'm not afraid to say that has worked against African Americans from the beginning, as if this was something slavery, as if we created this slavery and this indentured servitude and this racism. It's a construct that was created by white America, and white America doesn't want to learn about it. That to me is the biggest crime. And we put it in context about time. And I think James Baldwin said, we talk about now I'm looking at Black Lives Matter, and it makes me worry. I'm like, is this is this the begin again? Because the begin again, slavery came, Reconstruction came, Jim Crow came, the Civil Rights Movement came. Then you continue now, Black Lives Matter, and you see a system trying to say, let's hide racism and let's hide this systemic construct that they created. They don't want to talk about it. They want us to feel responsible for where we are economically as a race of people. And we didn't do this to us. And it wasn't 400 years ago. And I saw this, and I put this on my Facebook page. When Harriet Tubman was born, Thomas Jefferson was alive. And when she died, Ronald Reagan was alive. Stop saying everything was 400 years ago. It wasn't. It's happening now. And we need to talk about it, and we need to educate. We can't fix if we don't understand it. And we hide it through what this Georgia school board just did. It's reprehensible. I mean, this is where policy starts. These crazy ideas, and then policy starts. Why can't we do what Germany did? Let's get rid of the Confederate flags. Let's start with these symbolisms of hatred. You're not going to see the Nazi, you're not going to see the swastika in Germany. You're not going to see that. But people in America wave it around like it's something to be proud of. It was an insurrection. It was a turn against a nation. January 6th repeats again. So if you don't fix it, if you don't eliminate it, it's going to happen again. And this school board resolution is just the beginning of, let's hide it some more. Let's blame them for where they are. We can't stop. We got to wake up every day, and we've got to fight against this. And it's tiresome. It's exhausting. My kids do the same thing. They're doing it also. And it's unfortunate that we carry this burden for this country, and it's the 21st century. And I always tell Chip and Kelly, first I was like disappointed, whatever, that one word, and then I started to get hopeful. And then you see something like this happen again, and you go back to that feeling again, like a sinking feeling, like, will my grandkids or my great grandkids see complete freedom in this country? And you know, if we stop fighting, they won't see it. You know, so that's what coming to the table is about: addressing these subtle things that will turn into bigger things and turn into policy and then turn into law. So we got to stop it when it starts. So we have to get on this school board situation right away. And so we're probably going to be talking about that soon, Chuck, I'm sure. How we approach that, how we counter that.
When I think about, you mentioned Confederate monuments and people that, will get angry and fight for, and even, the violence we saw in Charlottesville, people wanting to protect Confederate monuments. I've started to think about it in a new way. And if those people had a child, that child was kidnapped and taken away and killed, instead of them putting a picture of that child on their mantelpiece in their house to remember the child, they'd put a picture of the kidnapper. And not just in their house, but they would want to do that in their community. So that's, looking at things critically is so important. That's the way I'm looking at it now. And it's hard to get people to see things through that kind of lens. But to me, that's what it means.
There's a question in the chat about, has your organization read the books Color of Money by Mesra Baradaran? I'm butchering her name. And From Here to Equality by Dr. Sandy Darity. Have you guys read either of those books?
I have not.
Kelly, unmute Kelly.
Not yet. Thanks to the pandemic, pre-pandemic, we met once a month, and we would do various book studies or have speakers, or some of the facilitators. We also have one other facilitator, Mike Harris, who's an African-American man, who couldn't make it today. But so we would do things once a month. And then since COVID, we also have started a book club and also a podcast club. that's been going for a few months. So we have not done mini books yet, but we're always open to recommendations. I know we're in the Sum of Us right now. We're going to be reading My Grandmother's Hands next. And I will definitely be looking at these as things to continue with. So thank you so much for these suggestions.
Yeah, two great reads. I actually listened to both of them on audio. Color of Money, I listened to most of that one. And From Here to Equality is an excellent one. I did listen to all of that one. That's great books.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, you know what? Like I said, when I saw you guys, I saw the article. I'm like, I don't know who these people are, what this group is all about, but I knew it was definitely something special, and you have definitely proven that. And these conversations, I know they're hard. They're uncomfortable, they're hard, but they're so absolutely necessary. And going to you, Miss Kathy, when you're talking about, will the next generation, will this be their problem? Will this be their fight? Will this be their struggle? And I'm so optimistic, and I might just be, just that kind of person, but I just keep thinking that every generation will continue to get this right. We will get better at doing this. When I look at I have 2 adult children, and they have a rainbow of friends. I mean, their friends are like all kinds of people, and that is something I can appreciate. And I actually saw this somewhere on TikTok or something. I'm not on TikTok, but I saw it on Instagram somewhere, and it was a white girl, and she said that she made a comment about how her friends are, she loves her Black friends. So, that this next generation, they're fighting their parents and their grandparents on what's right. And because they love their Black friends, they love the fact that, they like this diversity. They are getting it right. So I'm really encouraged, Miss Kathy. And I just know that, we know the stories, you and I'm in my late 40s, but these stories are I remember my family, not wearing shoes. And I'm from rural Georgia, where my uncle had an outhouse, and I used to cry as a little girl because if I had to stay there and use that thing, I was not going to be okay. And I used to cry, please don't make me stay. So I know these stories. And my aunt, she's in her 70s, and she would tell me stories about growing up in the quarters. And I was like, I didn't know what the quarters was. And then I think back on it, and she was telling me stories about the slave quarters. She wasn't a slave, but that was the area where she grew up, in the quarters, and it was a quarters everywhere. And it's just, these stories are our stories now.
They're our stories now, and I always say that I'm hopeful, but then things happen and it gets me all riled up, and that's what Georgia's school board did this week. But I can remember I was at Morehouse running their strategic communications during the 2016 election, and it was exhausting, as everybody always knows. And I had a son. My oldest son was running a campaign, a Senate race in Wisconsin, and his girlfriend was working with Hillary Clinton, so she was in New York on that campaign. And the day I had to call my son, because he's run campaigns before, and he just came off of Cory Booker's presidential race. But I was afraid to call him that next morning. And so I called his girlfriend first to see how he was doing. I mean, she was also, going through her thing. But she said something to me that was it gave me hope. She said, he's going to be okay. And she said, because, his thing is, we have to wake up tomorrow and start all over again. And it's what we have to do. And these are young kids. I mean, these are like 20, 30-year-old kids, and they are committed to this. So that gives me hope. But I just want to see it myself. I want to see, I grew up where I saw crosses burned at my bus stop because my father was very active in the civil rights movement. My kids shouldn't be seeing this now. It's how I feel. But I have an urgency, and I guess that's my own as a handicap, but it's this urgency that I feel. But I am proud of my children because they have taken on this banner that their grandfather carried back in the 1960s, and they do it. They do it proudly, and they wake up and they want to do it. It's not like they're feeling like they're forced to do it. My oldest now is a part of. He runs LeBron James has more than a vote, and so he is the spokesperson and EVP for that organization. So he deals with it every single day. But these athletes that he is working with right now, they're all into this now. So I do have hope. I'm not feeling like I don't have hope, but Georgia upset me again this week. So it just fills me up with more energy to do more. And I think we're going to be okay, but I don't want it to be 100 years. I don't want it to be the beginning again. I don't want it to be Reconstruction all over again, which is what I felt after Barack Obama was our president. I felt like we're now experiencing this Reconstruction because I'm in Louisiana, we had a Black governor during Reconstruction, and that was completely taken away from us. And we've got to hold on to some of these gains that we've made. We can't do it alone. We need white people. We need Asian people. We need we have to support our people who are members of the Pride community. It's we are all minorities in this country fighting for equality, and we have to come together, and we have to be hopeful, which is what I struggle, but I'm there.
Yeah, I get it. I feel like sometimes I get tired too. I get it. I'm at that middle, that bridge generation. I think I'm that generation between the young people, but I'm not, I'm like I said, I'm in my late 40s. So I'm like, I get tired, but I get excited when I see that they have the energy when I don't. So that's like encouraging to me, like, y'all can run hard right now because I'm getting tired. So we just stay in the fight, Miss Kathy and Miss Kelly and Mr. Chuck. This has been a phenomenal dialogue, which I knew it would. I knew that this would be. I'm like, this is a special group of people. This is a special group that it can see. Like I said, I go back to what you said in the beginning. The linked descendants, like the root of this. You guys came together knowing that we were the descendants of the slave owners. And these are the descendants of the slaves that have to come together and say, how do we fix this? How do we get to the core and move this country forward? Because ultimately, we have to move forward as a nation, and we have to do it collectively. And just the fact that you guys have taken the reins and said, we're gonna go in and we're gonna have these hard conversations, because I'm gonna come to some of these meetings because I already know. I got a feeling y'all go really deep. I know.
We have one this Monday night.
Yes, and you can bring Roger Bruce with you and have him talk about that legislation.
Awesome.
That would be good too. So.
When is it? You said Monday, this Monday?
It's Monday night, 7 p.m. We've got a Coming to the Table Atlanta Facebook group, and you can join there, get the information. If you want to send me an email, I don't know if I could put my email address in there, but I'm happy to put people on the email newsletter. I'm gonna send. I can put it in the private chat.
Put it in the chat, and I'll put it on the screen.
Okay.
On our way out, yes. Put it in the chat. Put the website up. I saw where Miss Kimberly said that she has signed up. Miss Lady K, she said that she signed up. Here it is. She says, I went to the website and I signed up. So yeah, we got people that are very interested in this work. This is a connection that I didn't know existed, and it excites me. I can hear, Miss Kathy, your words resonate with me, because you make me feel like this is a safe space for us, and that's the part for Black people, because there's a rage that lives inside of us, that we're always trying to suppress this, because we know that we're angry. This hurts.
This rage is real, and it should be accepted by people, because there's a reason that there's a rage there. And Black Lives Matter being in the streets, there's a rage because the rage is real. When you see a young man jogging and shot down on television, that's rage. How can you not be enraged by that? Mm-hmm. And we've got to be able to solve this. We've got to, and I don't want to hear people say, well, you pick up yourself by your bootstraps. We're bootless. King said we're bootless. That's how do you tell a person to raise himself up by their bootstraps, that there are no boots. And so reparations is going to take that. It's going to take fixing. You put us here. And you want us to dig our way out of your sin. This is the sin of America. And we should not be responsible for digging ourselves out of the sin of the country that we built for free, basically. And that's not, I'm not enraged, I'm just hopeful. I keep saying that word, hopeful.
Yeah, there's rage though. It lives there. It lives there, and we didn't put it there. It just lives there. It's in our DNA. You know, we were born with it, and we don't know why, but we do know why. You know, but it definitely lives inside of us. And I just want to thank you, Miss Kathy. I want to thank you, Miss Kelly, Mr. Chuck, for joining me on this broadcast. Y'all don't log off. I'm going to end the broadcast, but don't log off just yet. But I just want to thank our audience for tuning in. You know, we always have the hard conversations. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. You can find me at tamarashealy.com. I'm always with you every Saturday, giving voice to issues, activists, and activism. You know, we're on the right side of history, and I always bring it to you in real time. So thank you for joining me this week on Tamara for Georgia, and I will see you guys next Saturday. But you know, I do Keeping Up with Congress Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 p.m. to 5:30 every week, because we got to keep our eyes on these legislators. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.